A huge number of people believe that Chinese electric car manufacturers, they're not really going to have much of an impact outside of China. And the reason is because brand. I mean, people buy cars because of the brand, not because of how good the car actually is. Sometimes that's true. But in the case of China, well, it shows that most people aren't actually that stupid. Now, to make it clear, guys, I did live in China for a while. In fact, I lived in Taiwan for nearly a year. I lived in China for several months as well. And I found that the Chinese are very, very brand aware, brand conscious. I found it hard to buy clothes that were affordable. It was either cheap clothes that were like really cheap and stuff you wouldn't really want to wear, or the alternative was brands, spending a lot of money on, fashion brands. So there wasn't really a middle ground like there is in the West. Now, in Asia or in China, people are very brand conscious, but even they are starting to recognize when brands are not as good as what they claim. And what's happened in China shows us what could happen in the rest of the world for companies like Porsche. Porsche dealers are freaking out. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. It's great to see you. Porsche is in talks with Chinese dealers because they're freaking out. Porsche is trying to smooth out relations as, well, weaker sales of Porsche vehicles are forcing the auto industry to rethink the transition away from combustion cars. Basically, what's really happening here in China, guys, is Porsche sales in China have gone down significantly. And for a long time, Porsche have just grown their market share in China because, well, as more and more wealthy Chinese people get more and more money, as the country becomes richer, it does every single month, essentially. That means people are going in, you know what, I'm going to go buy a Porsche now. But all of a sudden, people, when they get wealthy, get rich in China, they're not aspiring to buy a Porsche. I mean, having a look at these sales here, they're quite intriguing, guys. It's reported that there's been a Porsche sales collapse in China. Now, that was reported in January of this year, where sales of car manufacturer Porsche grew in many world regions in 2023, but in China, which is Porsche's most important car market worldwide by a huge margin, sales slumped. As the group announced, Porsche sold 320,000 vehicles in the past 12 months. That was 3% more than 2022. Only 79,000 cars, though, were delivered to China. And that meant that Chinese Porsche sales fell by 15% in a growing market. Now, falling by 15% doesn't sound too bad, but if you consider the fact that 2022 was affected by the pandemic, so that was an unusually bad year for Porsche in China, 2023 should have been a good year, but it wasn't. It was even worse by some margin than 2022. Porsche and other Western automakers have seen their share of China's EV market dwindle as local competitors who are perceived to have better technology, because they do, increase their offerings and gained bigger market share in China. And that's at the expense of their Western competition, in particular General Motors, Porsche, etc. With China's economy sort of bogged down by a real estate crisis, overall demand for cars, well, Automotive News says overall demand for EVs has weakened, prompting price cuts that have eaten into the bottom line for manufacturers and dealers. Now, Automotive News says that as though it's fact. That's a complete lie. The truth is that EV sales have never been greater in China. I mean, we're looking at 48% of the market in China now being electrified, whether that's plug-in hybrids or fully electric cars. 1 in every 2 cars sold in the month of May, 1 in every 2 was electric, had a large battery in it. And Porsche's, well, its sales are going down. That doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, Porsche have the Taycan. Surely people would be buying a Porsche Taycan, but, well, they're not. Chinese media reported that Porsche dealers in China are asking for compensation for having to sell electric cars and cars in general at a loss, and have objected to this year's sales targets, saying they're virtually impossible. Last year, China accounted for a quarter, 25% of Porsche's deliveries worldwide. Porsche's deliveries in the Chinese market fell 15% in 2023. So you can see here, even though their numbers, Porsche's sales numbers in China fell 15%, it still meant 1 out of every 4 cars sold worldwide by Porsche was in China. Deliveries to North America, though, also fell 23% in the same period. Tensions between Chinese distributors and Porsche is, well, as far as I know, it's unprecedented. And the reality is here, Porsche dealers, they're freaking out. They're saying to themselves, well, do Porsche have anything that our customers are going to find desirable? They're going to say, well, that's better than what BYD have got, for example. Probably not. I mean, BYD's supercar, that's significantly better in terms of performance and range than a Porsche Taycan, which costs a similar price. And across the range of BYD's premium, luxury EVs, and even other manufacturers, Zeekr with their 001 FR, I mean, basically Porsche, possible Porsche buyers are saying, you know what you're offering, it's just not the best. I mean, here's another example, guys. Charging tests done in Europe of EVs to see which cars would charge the fastest. You would think Porsche's Taycan with its so-called 350 kilowatt charging would be the best, but actually it wasn't. The new Lotus EV, which is owned by parent company Geely, that actually had the fastest charging by a significant margin at 410 kilowatt speeds in the real world. So you can see, how does Porsche compete with that when their EV was only able to charge at 260 to 270 kilowatt? That's a big difference. And, you know, new buyers, they're seeing these numbers, they're seeing these facts, and they're going, well, Porsche doesn't have the advantage that it used to. And this has happened very, very quickly. How long will it take before, you know, premium companies no longer have that kind of brand heritage or brand esteem that they used to? Well, it appears this can happen incredibly quickly.